This past Sunday, April the 3rd, the 64th Grammy Awards took place, and one of the real notable winners in the classical category was the recording that was done with the Los Angeles Philharmonic and Gustavo Dudamel of Mahler's Symphony Number 8. This recording won for Best Choral Performance. Mahler 8 is very often called the Symphony of 1,000 because when it was premiered, with the combination of huge orchestra, chorus, and soloists, there are about 1,000 performers on stage. One of the soloists on the Dudamel Mahler 8 recording is the amazing New Zealand tenor Simon O'Neil. For those of you who are unfamiliar with O'Neil, he has performed with the likes of Dame Kiri Te Kanawa, Placido Domingo, Antonio Papano, Shakolin Davis, and Daniel Barenboim, just to name a few, and has been appointed an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit. And it is with great pleasure that I welcome Simon O'Neil to our Classic 107 studios virtually. Hi, Simon. Nice to meet you.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me. And hello from Germany, where I'm sitting here on a lovely evening here in Munich.
Yes, yeah, that was going to be my first question. You're in Munich. So what opera are you performing and who is it with?
Sure. I just came up from New Zealand just on the weekend. So I'm performing the title role of Parsifal, Wagner's Parsifal, here at the Bayerische Staatsoper. So it's the State Opera of Munich. It's such a great honor because it's one of the great opera houses of the world. Phenomenal colleagues in the cast. I mean, I was rehearsing today with Christian Gerhaher, who I'm just such a fan of. I mean, I'm literally a fan of his, that I'm on stage with him performing. It's a great thrill to be here.
Oh, it's amazing. So I got to ask the question, where were you when you found out the recording of Mahler 8 won a Grammy, and how did you feel?
Well, it was on I guess Sunday night over here, and I had just flown in earlier that morning from New Zealand, so that was a good 30-something hour flights, a couple of big flights. I was feeling quite tired, Chris, so I went to bed actually, and then at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone went. It was my wife from New Zealand calling up saying, "Hey, you should get up because the recording has just won the Grammy." And my phone did not stop from that moment onwards. It was very busy for about 24 hours. And it was mind blowing that it won. I mean, I was so proud that it got a nomination at the start, and that was late last year. I was just so thrilled to be, to be part of such a massive work that had been, looked on by the Academy and nominated for the big award.
Mm-hmm. I know that you had plans of taking your daughter to the Grammy Awards ceremony, but apparently that what didn't happen. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that did not end up happening?
Well, there are a few reasons. The first one is my daughter. She's 10 years old, Violet. I said, "Look, darling, we're going to go to the Grammys. We're going to probably sit at the same table as Justin Bieber and his wife Haley." I said, "Darling, I'm a believer too." Anyway, New Zealand at the time, though, Chris, it's just changed actually in the last month, but we had a full military quarantine that no one was allowed into the country. You could leave the country, but you couldn't get back in without a special, you had to be invited to join a military quarantine. Now, to get that invitation was pretty impossible. I was fortunate that I was able to win the lottery to go through MIQ, it was called, military quarantine, twice. So that meant it was just off the cards for us to fly all the way up from New Zealand to Los Angeles, purely because we couldn't get back in the country. And she had school starting. So, but then after that, the Grammys anyway got postponed by a couple of months. So that's why it's on. It happened just on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So she was disappointed, don't get me wrong, but she was very excited that I at least led her along a bit at the very start with the possibility that we were going to go to the Grammys and she was going to see all of her stars.
Right. For those unfamiliar with Mahler 8, can you talk a little bit about the forces needed to perform the work, and also just talk a little bit about the structure of the symphony? It's a very, very unusual structure, right?
Yeah, I've been able to perform this work quite a few times. performed it once in Canada, up in Montreal with Kent Nagano, and it demands huge forces for a start. The work. It's in two sections. The first movement is, of course, who was the first person who put voices into a symphony? It was Ludwig van Beethoven with Symphony 9. It has happened, throughout, but then Mahler by Symphony 8, which he had used in earlier symphonies, of course, voices and choirs, particularly, my favorite symphony, Symphony number 2, The Resurrection. But by the Symphony 8, it is so huge that it calls for multiple choirs, including a children's choir. It obviously has pipe organ and then full Mahler symphony orchestra. It also calls for 8 opera singers to sing these amazing roles throughout the piece. So the first movement is Latin, based on the Vieni Creator Spiritum. Of course, by this stage, Mahler he was a Catholic, even though he was born Jewish. He became a Catholic in Vienna. The second part, it's the last scene of Faust, of Goethe's Faust. So the first half we're singing in Latin, and the second movement we sing in German, and it is gorgeous. In fact, it's quite, to actually sing the thing, you have to be very careful. You can't just go out there and blat it out the first movement, because you have some serious singing to do in the second movement. You have to be very, very detailed to, from a technical point of view, to have your voice in good shape for the whole piece.
Yeah, I mean,
I tell you now, Chris, I've been there, done that though. When I first did the Beethoven 9, I cleaned myself out after the first movement, and I didn't have much left for the second. It was a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, the second part of Mahler 8, it's he writes roles, right, based from Goethe's Faust. Can you talk about the role that you were singing, Dr. Extaticus? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Marianus is my part. Marianus. Extaticus is the baritone, if I'm
okay,
right.
Okay.
And my favorite part is it's towards the end of the second movement. Once the Mater Gloriosa, because you have all the women singing various arias, let's call them, or definitely major vocal orchestral writing of Gretchen and such. But when Mater Gloriosa appears, calling, calm, and then Dr. Marianus sings Blicket auf, look up, all you who repent, and it's, by this stage, Faust his soul is taken up to heaven. It's not dragged down to the hell with Mephistopheles. So, and of course the E flat major chorus at the very end, which calls for, in places, 8-part harmony, if I'm correct. The basses down on bottom low C's down to low B flats and such. I mean, it's extraordinary. Right. And then the soloists gradually join that chorus. I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The thing, though, Chris, with this work, and particularly this recording, I was up there with a lot of my colleagues that I studied with over the last 20 years, and had sung in operas with, and been young artists with. We're all up there together, and so when I'm on stage, I'm listening to my colleagues sing, particularly the two men beside me, and I'm thinking, my God, do I have the best seat in the house? It was just glorious singing from everyone on stage. Since the baritone and the bass are so close to me, I really got it in both barrels, and it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. So the work makes use of huge forces. How did the rehearsals work for the recording? I've always been fascinated with this. Like, how far ahead, how much lead time and preparation happens before?
Yeah, that's a great question, because this was actually a series of live concerts. I think we did 2, might have been 3 live concerts in the Disney Hall, and I think they were all recorded. but of course we record the rehearsals prior as well. So the team on the recording desk had quite a bit of footage, I guess, that they could use, and of course they're going to hopefully choose the best bits. They also, they pushed the good button. I think they made us sound all really good. I said, if you're going to push any button, push the good one. So, but of course, it's a pressure, because once you're actually in performance, you do have the normal pressure of a live performance. But of course, having all these microphones around you it doubles it. It's quite something. But if I can recall, all the performances went really well. I can sort of remember some of the tempo markings that ended up on the recording. I can sort of remember them, that some were from the live performances and some were from earlier times. And of course, at the very end, you do what's called pickups. Pickups in recordings are when you usually re-record some of the harder moments, ensemble work, for example. If it's a particular solo of, say, a woodwind solo that's then joining the tenor, you want to have that seamless. So to make that that pickup, we were able to get quite a bit of that in the bag, I guess. And then the genius people at Deutsche Grammophon, with their incredible soundscapes that they can put together, and it was amazing. Of course, the other thing, they used this new technique called Apple Spatial Audio. Now, Chris, I have no idea what that is. I was just singing into the Disney Hall, and they've put on some microphones with this new Apple product to, as I said, they push the good button. So yeah.
Amazing. Some of Mahler knew how to write for the voice. I mean, some of my favorite music of his is song cycles, the Rückert-Lieder, the Kindertotenlieder, Das Knabenbrüderhorn, etc. You touched on this a little bit before. Because the forces are so large and you are singing as a soloist, do you ever find it difficult to singing above those huge forces?
Yeah. I think, but of course, it all comes down. It is. Yep. It just is. It is difficult. But say the 8 voices, for example. Generally, in Mahler 8, you need to have a voice which has a lot of. It has to have some sort of. It needs to have beauty, of course. It needs beauty, but for the tenor particularly, you need to have a voice with great carrying power over a full chorus and a full orchestra. Much like I often sing Das Lied von der Erde, for example, which is his last work, and it's just it's so extraordinarily difficult for the very start with the horn section, ba-bam, bam, ba-ba-ba-bam, and then as the tenor, you need to ride over the top of that. That's difficult, and sometimes you get swamped. That's just part of the. I say it's like a tidal wave coming in and just swamping you. I don't mind. Right. I'm a brass player. I started off a brass player, Chris, so I don't mind to be swamped by the brass section. No, but again, back to the Mahler 8. Yes, it does. But for example, out of the 3 sopranos, 2 very beautiful lyric to dramatic voices, but the last voice is a very high, beautiful soprano who sings the part of Marta Gloriosa, and she sings a high, extended, very high notes over many bar lines of some of the most beautiful music in the whole symphony. So there's positions for or parts really for all voices. And then the 3 men, I listened to Morris Robinson, who's the bass on this, and I've known Morris for 25 years. We started off as young artists together. And that man has one instrument that it's like a huge, a V12 Merlin Spitfire engine rearing up beside you. It's just brilliant. Well, all 3 of us just loved it. It was great, and we're a good team as well. We like each other. We hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like to record with Gustavo Dudamel? I mean, any footage I've seen of him, he's a real firebrand. Is he just loaded with energy? What was that like?
He is loaded with energy. Of course, in this situation, he has many priorities to work out. Usually, we have some sort of a quick piano run through with Maestro Dudamel. And I mean, I'm just a fan of his. I mean, such beautiful work that he does. but on stage, he is electric. He is someone who is, a big thing on stage and performing, Chris, is some people are energy suckers. I call them oxygen stealers. I don't particularly like performing those sorts of people because they just steal energy. They just suck it out of you. Mm-hmm. The great ones, and I can say this whole cast of the Mahler 8 performance, of the Mahler 8 Symphony, and including Dudamel, is a nuclear reactor of energy. Just completely, just the energy just is beaming out of them, and it goes into you, and my energy goes into them. And that's when you're on stage, like doing an opera, Parsifal, for example, or Die Walküre, or these big Wagner ring cycles, definitely with the Mahler. If you have that interchange of energy, I guess, and I'm not talking some sort of crazy energy guy. I'm just saying that Dudamel is that. He's quite extraordinary. Mm-hmm. It's just a thrill to be on stage with him.
Sure. This is something I've wondered. With a work like this, not everybody's getting a statue, right? Are you going to get a statue of a Grammy?
That's a great question. I at the very start, when the Grammy nominations came out, I got a Google alert because on my email saying my name's appeared in the New York Times. Well, it has appeared over the years, when I've done something or sung something. Hopefully not in any sort of criminal fashion, but right. No, I can promise that. But and so when your name appears on the New York Times and you see it alongside, John Bautista and Gustavo Dudamel and Yannick Sagan, you think, oh, that's interesting. And of course, my name is there, named as a nominee. But let me tell you, it is very interesting. Your listeners might find this interesting. I am not officially a nominee. I am not officially, as Simon O'Neil, a winner. Neither is the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Neither is any of the other soloists. In this particular category of the Grammy for the Best Choral, the only people that can call themselves nominees and winners is Gustavo Dudamel and the individual conductors of those choirs.
Really?
So whilst, so we had to sort of be a bit careful, tell the truth, because, it's just one of those particular little details in there. So that's why of course, I'm walking around like I've just won a Grammy. Don't get me wrong. Now, officially, I haven't. I am part of a Grammy recording, and I'm absolutely delighted to be part of it. Getting to the statue will go to Gustavo Dudamel, and I doubt that he will pass it round. He should just have it on his shelf. But I think we're all going to get, according to the rules, we will all get a certificate and a medal, I think, something like that, which is cool. I mean, it's a great honor just to be part of it. But it's interesting, if I were to sing the part, and it was staged, the part of Dr. Marianos, which is the lead tenor part, same sort of role as, I don't know, name it, Cavaradossi, any of these parts in opera. If I was in the Best Opera recording, the soloists are nominees. And if you win, you are a winner. So it's one of the peculiarities between the Best of Choral and Best Opera in that. So, that was interesting to find out. Slightly depressing, but best to be on the safe side so you don't upset the Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, this has just been great. It's been so great to chat with you. And a bit of a shout out to my friend Carmen here at Classic 107 for getting me in touch with you. Carmen went to school with you. Thanks again for taking the time to chat with me today. This has just been great.
Great pleasure, Chris. And regards to everyone up there in Canada, being a New Zealander, we are like cousins. We feel that way. I literally have cousins in Canada. I went to school in Canada in Leaside High School for a few months in Toronto. Regards to you guys, thanks very much for listening today, and thanks for having me on the program, Chris.
Thank you.